Friends, this is Father Richard Erikson. I have the great privilege of serving as a priest of the Archdiocese of Boston and as a reserve chaplain in the United States Air Force. In the 15th chapter of the Gospel of John, we hear Jesus telling us, "No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends." Every person who's ever served in the military has been willing to do this, to lay down her or his life. In this series, No Greater Love, we're reflecting on the life and the example of a few men and women who have served God and country in military service with spiritual fortitude and with courage. Some of our most endearing saints lived wayward lives and had significant failures in their lives before their conversions. Others had famous tempers or other idiosyncrasies before and after they answered God's call to holiness. Ignatius of Loyola would fall into a few of these categories, but he remains beloved to this very day for his rigorous prayer life and spiritual practices. Ignatius of Loyola was one of the youngest of 13 children, which may have played a factor in his persistent and intense zeal in his work and ministry. For example, during the Inquisition, Ignatius was jailed for over a month for his ongoing public evangelization. From the time he was a teenager, Ignatius lived the life of a soldier. The 16th century was a volatile time period, and battles were rampant in Spain. Ignatius came from an affluent Catholic family, and while he practiced the faith, one couldn't say he exactly lived it. Ignatius enjoyed worldly privileges and liked to have his own way even in the face of danger. During one battle, Ignatius and his fellow soldiers were facing what was a near certain defeat in defense of a castle. Ignatius spurred his colleagues, but the battle was lost, and Ignatius suffered a devastating hit to the thigh with a bullet. The recovery, while remarkable, resulted in a large bony outgrowth, which Ignatius demanded be sawed off so he could continue to wear his battle regalia. Have I mentioned that Ignatius was persistent and stubborn? The recovery from the sawing off took a great amount of recuperation time, which Ignatius used to read the only books available to him, the Life of Christ and a book about the saints. These books inspired Ignatius to change the way that he had been living, and he made a commitment to live for others and to live to serve God. This became his new battle cry. As a military strategist, he knew that he needed a plan and resources, and he partnered with friends such as Francis Xavier, and he began studies of the faith. Here is where Ignatius' persistence is evident. The Mass was said in Latin, which Ignatius had never learned. At age 30, he began studies with far younger students so he could attain his goal of serving the Church. It's amazing that this delayed education had such an impact on this saint who had become the founder of the Jesuits, well known for their academic institutions and fostering of educational formation. One practice which Ignatius developed that remains widely used today is the examen, a 30-day spiritual journey of prayer, reflection, and examination of conscience. He used to influence his friend Francis Xavier this examen. Francis had lived lavishly and somewhat sinfully. Francis, inspired by Ignatius, took on the spiritual battle to convert his ways and to dedicate himself to God. In fact, Ignatius and Francis defended the faith during the Counter-Reformation with devotion and dedication. Ignatius remains a persistent influencer today. His life and example remind us of the need to be persistent in demonstrating great love and in praying for and working towards peace.